There is a ramen shop in Tokyo that has a line outside the door every single morning. The line forms before the shop opens. By noon, the shop is usually closed not because the crowd has left, but because the supply of broth has run out. The doors shut when the bowls are gone. This happens most mornings before 11:30. The owner has been making the same ramen for 41 years, not approximately the same. Not variations on a theme, the same bowl developed through the same daily practice, refined through the same kind of attention every single morning for 4 decades. When a journalist asked him what the secret was, he said something that confused the journalist enough to write it down. "I am not trying to make good ramen. I am trying to learn how to make ramen." After 41 years, he said, he is still learning. This is the concept of shokunin. Shokunin is a Japanese word that is usually translated as craftsman or artisan, but the translation does not carry the full weight of the word. In Japanese, shokunin is not just a description of what someone does. It is a description of what someone is. A shokunin is not a person who makes things. A shokunin is a person who has dedicated their existence to the mastery of a single craft, and who understands that mastery, in this sense, has no final destination. The word applies to sushi, masters and carpenters and gardeners and calligraphers and tea ceremony practitioners. In a broader sense, it can apply to anyone: a teacher, an engineer, a surgeon who brings a particular quality of relationship to their work. What the word describes is not the craft itself, it is the orientation toward the craft. A shokunin does not separate themselves from their work. The work is not what they do between other parts of their life. The work is the primary relationship of their existence, and everything else is arranged around it. This sounds extreme. In some ways it is, but it points to something that is available in a smaller form to almost anyone, and that form is worth understanding. I want to start with why the Shokunin model is difficult to understand from a modern perspective, because the difficulty itself reveals something important. The modern relationship to work and skill is built around optimization and progression. The goal is to learn something well enough that it becomes useful, and then to leverage that usefulness toward something larger: a promotion, a project, a business, an outcome. The skill is a means. The destination is what matters. In this model, mastery is something you acquire. You study, you practice, you get competent, you deploy. At some point, the learning phase ends and the doing phase begins. You stop being a student of the craft and start being a practitioner of it. You have what you need. Now you build with it. This is not entirely wrong, but it produces a particular confusion about what genuine mastery actually requires, because in this model, the deepening of the relationship with a craft over a very long time, the kind of relationship the ramen master in Tokyo has with his broth, does not fit. If mastery is something you acquire, then 40 years is either a failure to move on or an unusual form of stubbornness. Why is he still there? Still making the same thing when he clearly already knows how? Shokunin answers this by rejecting the premise. Mastery is not something you acquire and deploy. It is something you practice, without end, as the primary activity of your working life. The depth available in year 40 is simply not available in year 1, not because you lack talent, but because that depth requires 40 years of genuine presence to become accessible. Here's what Shokunin actually requires, and I want to be specific, because the concept is often romanticized in ways that skip the most important parts. The first thing it requires is repetition, not occasional repetition. Not repetition until you feel confident. Repetition as the permanent, ongoing condition of the practice. The ramen master does not make ramen until he feels he has figured it out, and then move to something else. He makes ramen every morning, and each morning, he is paying full attention to what this particular morning's bowl is telling him. The broth behaves slightly differently in autumn than in summer. The noodles absorb water differently depending on humidity. The tear is marginally off from yesterday. For reasons he is still learning to read. He notices. He adjusts. He is curious. The repetition is not the obstacle to mastery. The repetition is the practice of mastery. There is no other way to develop the kind of sensitivity that genuine craft requires. The sensitivity to notice small differences, to read subtle signals, to respond to what is actually present, rather than to what you expect. Then to show up to the same thing over and over for a very long time. The second thing Shokunin requires is the dissolution of ego from the work. This sounds abstract, so let me be specific. Most people, when they work on something, maintain a running awareness of themselves doing the work. They are tracking how well they are doing, whether they are improving fast enough, how their work compares to others, whether the output is good enough to share. There is a self watching the performance and evaluating it in real time. This monitoring takes up attention, and it introduces a particular distortion. The work becomes primarily about the self. Decisions get made based on what will look good or what will feel like progress, rather than what the work actually needs. The question is no longer what does this need, but what does this say about me? The Shokunin state, at its deepest level, is one where this self-monitoring recedes. You are not watching yourself work. You are just working. The attention goes fully into what is in front of you, the broth, the wood, the notes, the clay, without the filter of self-evaluation distorting the signal. The craft becomes the teacher, and you become a student who has set aside the need to look like they already know. Here is what Shokunin is not, because the idea is sometimes used as a justification for something quite different. Shokunin is not workaholism. Workaholism is compulsive overwork used to manage anxiety, avoid something else, or maintain a sense of identity that depends on being seen as productive. It looks like dedication from the outside. Inside, it is driven by fear. The workaholic is not at peace in the work. They are running from something by staying inside it. Shokunin is neither of these things. Its quality is calm. It is patient in a deep way, not because the practitioner is indifferent to quality, but because they are genuinely engaged in the process, rather than anxious about the product. The ramen master is not afraid his ramen will not be good enough. He is genuinely curious about what this morning's broth is telling him. That is a completely different relationship to the work. One is driven by fear. The other is driven by genuine interest. There is a way to bring something of Shokunin into a life that does not involve 40 years in a ramen kitchen. It begins with a question. Is there anything in your life that you are relating to? The way a Shokunin relates to their craft? Something you return to, not primarily for what it produces, but for the relationship itself, for what the practice continues to teach you. For most people in a modern context, the honest answer is no. Most of our relationship to work and skill is instrumental. We are doing it to get somewhere. The doing is the cost and the outcome is the point. We are passing through the work on our way to what we are actually after. Shokunin invites you to experiment, even in a small way, with flipping this. To take one thing, not everything. Just one thing, and decide to give it your genuine, ongoing attention without a fixed endpoint. To let the practice be the teacher. To notice what the thing reveals when you stop treating it as a means and start treating it as the thing itself. The scale does not have to be grand. What matters is the quality of attention. What matters is showing up to the same thing over time with genuine curiosity and being willing to stay long, enough to discover what is available after the initial layer wears away. What Shokunin offers in the end is a different answer to the question of what a working life is actually for. In the standard productivity model, work is a means. You work to accumulate resources, skills, reputation, options. The eventual goal is to have enough of these things, that the work itself becomes optional. Freedom from work is the destination. In the Shokunin model, the work is the destination. The ramen master is not making ramen in order to eventually retire from making ramen. The 41 years of ramen are not a price he paid. They are what happened, the actual primary content of his existence, the central relationship of his days. He is not waiting for his life to begin after the work is done. The work is his life in its truest sense. What Shokunin points to, that the relationship to a practice can itself be a source of meaning. Completely independent of what the practice produces is available to anyone. In any practice, at any scale, you do not have to give your life to one craft to discover what it feels like to be fully present in the act of making something well. You can find it in an afternoon. If you approach the afternoon with the quality of attention that a Shokunin brings, show up, pay attention, let the work teach you. That is where it begins. If this kind of thinking speaks to you, follow this channel. There is more Japanese wisdom where this came from.